Hello, welcome. Oh my goodness. It's 2023. Woo!
Woo! Yeah.
Oh my goodness. We are so excited. We want to welcome you to our very first event of 2023. So exciting.
Woo! That's exciting.
Yes. Okay, so I'm Montana.
And I'm Stephanie.
Yes, and we're so glad that you're here. And before we get started on what you showed up for, which is to discover your word for 2023, we want you to tell us where you're watching from. We want you to tag your beauty consultant. We want you to screenshot us and share it on social media, on Instagram. Let us know because you know what? You're here because you're interested in what we're sharing. And we know that like minds think together, right? So we want to share this with the entire world that think like us because, you know, we know that people just want to get better and better. So we want to encourage you just to stay on to the end because we have a special keyword for you to be entered into our giveaways. We are giving away some good stuff tonight. And then, of course, we have a special invitation for you at the very end with some freebies.
Oh yeah, it's fabulous. All right. Well, what we're going to be doing, you guys, is we're going to be talking about this word. And for some people, they have no idea what's the word? What's the word? And the thing is that, you know, when we look at a word versus the traditional resolution, oftentimes, well, here's what I want to tell you. I really feel like, for me at least, resolution, it's like a setup. It's a joke. Like people are like, oh, my New Year's resolution is, and they say it, and maybe they have like every intention. One of my favorite things, because I live in Michigan, one of my favorite things that people say in the South that we don't say in the North is fixing to get ready, because I think it is the most accurate depiction of what procrastination, right? Fixing to get ready. And so people are constantly fixing to get ready to start something. And, you know, oftentimes we make these grandiose declarations of things we're going to do and completely change our habits and become a whole different person. But the truth is, you know, when you look at, and this might be a little deep, so go with me for a second. Do you know that the majority of people who win the lotto become bankrupt? Did you know that? Like,
yes, I actually did. I've watched that Lifetime TV show or whatever.
Statistically, so the thing is, because people are chasing something that they want to have, right? And so they're spending all their money thinking this will make me happy. But if you just make the decision every day to be happy, and you do things like go to the gym or go eat this or you might say, well, why am I doing that? Well, because, or, you know, happy people do X. And so therefore that's what I'm going to go do. And so that's why you're doing it. You're tying it to something intrinsic versus extrinsic, which doesn't oftentimes, it's not sustainable. Extrinsic is not sustainable. So that's why, guys, I choose a word, because the word is my be. It's like what I want to be, like who I'm growing into this year. And I'm so sorry. My daughter is blowing up my computer. What are your
Somebody puts a big "stay out" sign outside the office. No, I'm just kidding.
Let me tell you what I'm about to be. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, and so when I think of having a word versus a resolution, I think through the thought of intention versus achievement. And so when I choose my word, you know, I've recently heard that somebody said like I-95, which is our biggest highway around here, was busier than a gym in January or something, like, and that is like the epitome of what we think of when we think of New Year's resolution, right? Like you can't get on a treadmill because everybody and their brother's getting a gym membership. And so when I think of intention versus resolution, it's really more like I want to have a lens through which I'm going to look through this next year to help me become a more closer to the person God created me to be, vision. And when I think through resolution, I think achievement. And so I like completing things. I like achieving things, but I also know that sometimes I personally have a tendency to have these grandiose plans. And one time I was told, you know, as the activator, which is my number one strength, that we jump off the bridge and then build our wings on the way down. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. Like I can come up with these like great plans and then I'm like figuring it out. But sometimes sometimes you hit the ground before all your plans come together. And you know what? That's okay. I'm okay with that. But the thing is when you're setting an intention or choosing a word through which you're going to filter everything through this next year as you're becoming that next best version of yourself, that's really the difference. And it feels like Stephanie said, you can wake up every day and win. You get to start over every day. You get 365 chances to do it the way that feels life-giving.
Yeah. So there we go. And you know what? And the other great part is I wouldn't change your word as often you change your underwear, but you can change your word maybe every 6 months, because sometimes the goal is to really create habits that support the ultimate goal, right? And so it's not smart to just keep saying the same thing when you've already done it. You need to change it, because pursuing something like going for something like that, it produces endorphins, which those are those internal like happy drugs. My daughter did squats yesterday, and she was like, she was really happy, and she's a teenager, so that doesn't always happen. And so laughing, and I said, Maddie, do you notice all those endorphins? I said, and we did the quote from Legally Blonde,
I just sent that to my cousin today.
Women with endorphins don't kill their husbands. And my husband was looking at us like, what? She doesn't have, like, what are you guys talking about? We're like, oh. But she was so happy. And so when you're pursuing something, it gives you dopamine and it gives you endorphins. And those are the good drugs to have, right? The ones that you're producing and they're keeping you and making you happy. So Montana, I'm going to lead you through these steps, if that's all right with you, and kind of go through the process, because I think no one ever took the time to, or most people don't take the time to find a word, let alone, figure out what in the world is my word. So first thing I want to ask you, Montana, is we're going through this. Okay, so this is one way to start. And you guys, some years it comes really easy. Like you just know that you know what your word is to start the year. Other times it's like, I don't know, I'm going between, like, if you're used to doing this, you're like, I'm going between like 3 or 4 words. Okay. In this case, for some of you, you're like, again, what in the word am I doing? Okay. So this is how we're going to sort of figure it out. Okay. And this is not, you don't have to solve world peace in one night. We don't have to figure this out like in this couple minutes, but it's going to at least start it. And we really hope that you'll do the work to find your word. Okay. So first and foremost, the first way to start the process is to really think about, there's so many things that we want, but like we really spend more time complaining than we do thinking about what we want, right? And we know what we want, but we're not specific. So let's start here. So first and foremost, Montana, do you have anything like maybe in the last 3-6 months that you have found yourself like complaining about in your life?
Okay, so I will say I personally choose not to use the word complain, but I understand the concept. So, but I think through this, because it's like that feels like, oh, I don't want to say complaining, like, but agree, understandably so. What I think is I have found myself feeling heavy about things, like wanting something to be different or wanting to get back to a lighter, I remember like 2 or 3 years ago, pre-COVID. Okay, 2 or 3 before COVID. I feel like when COVID came, it was like everything stopped. But so before that, I had this like feeling of like lightness and just this inspired focus on where I was going and what I was working to create and become. And I kind of like fizzled on that. And so I guess my complaining was connected to like, I want that fire back in a couple specific areas. So yeah, that's how I can answer that.
Okay. So when you really think about what you've been complaining about, you're usually complaining or what you're feeling uneasy about or what you're grumbling about or what you're in turmoil about, whatever the case may be, is a pretty good indicator, like when the little light comes on that it's time to get gas in your car. It's a pretty good indicator that there is something to pay attention to.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
Sure. So, but here's
can I add something really quickly? Please. So when I think about this complaining thing, like when you're doing this on your own, don't think about things that you have no control over. Like, don't complain about world peace and try to find your word through that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
I'll say though, if you've been complaining about your job, your teenagers, your husband.
Things that you can do about. Yeah.
You can't change them,
Mm-hmm.
but there are things about yourself when it comes to them you can change.
Yes.
Okay, so that's
Agreed.
a therapy session maybe for another day. But okay, so here's the thing. So that indicator light comes on when you find yourself saying all the, oh, okay. It's time to get really clear on then what you do want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you do this exercise a lot of times with our Mary Kay family when we're talking about being specific, because here's the thing. A lot of times we're like, oh, we know what we want. Like, oh, but I know what I want. Like, I could say like, oh, let's pretend this is the example I give a lot. I want a salad. Okay. So I know what I want. I want a salad. Okay. But that's as specific as I get. I know, like, I might be complaining about how there's nothing to eat. And so, well, clearly the issue is I'm hungry. Okay. So what do you want? Well, I want a salad. Okay. Well, if I don't talk more about what I want on that salad, who knows what I'll get, right? But what we oftentimes do, going back to that uneasiness or the complaining, is we're like, well, I know I don't want this. Like, it's so easy to talk about what you don't want. Yeah. Like if I said, Montana, I don't want olives, and I don't want cheddar cheese, and I don't want broccoli, and I don't want bacon, and I don't want ranch, and I don't want Italian dressing, and I don't want tortilla strips, and I don't want
I'd be like, dude, what do you want? Right? You want lettuce? You want a bowl of lettuce?
but in my mind, I might be like, I told you, I want a Caesar salad. Okay, guys. Yeah. But if I said I would like lettuce, and if I never said what I wanted, and I said to Montana, I want lettuce, I want Parmesan cheese, I want Caesar dressing. Okay, that gives it away. And I want croutons. And maybe you even want that anchovy, whatever. If I were to say to her, these are the things I want, what would she say?
You want Caesar salad? Yeah.
Right? Okay. So that's how clear we have to be on what we do want. So the next part of step one is, sometimes to figure out what we really do want, we have to be aware of, we might think, oh, this is what I want. But really the thing that you really want is the thing you haven't been willing to address. You've been addressing it the wrong way. Okay. So that's the right way. Okay. So once you're really clear on what it is you do want, okay. So Montana, I know you've been working on some of this because it is a new year and we do this all the time. Yeah. So I know that you probably have spent some time thinking about what you really do want. Mm-hmm. Do you want to share it all, or we can move forward?
Yeah. Okay. So when I was thinking through that, I was spending a lot of quiet time. I was looking through my Bible, like, okay, like I wasn't like doing like the Bible roulette or anything, like open it up and hoping that the Lord points me to something. But I was just really being aware that I wanted this new, fresh, like vision, and I wanted to feel that fire again because I do know, it's like if you hold it under a basket, it gets really small and very hard to like use its purpose, right? Like you talk about the light all the time. We're to be the light. And I just knew, I felt like my light was stuck. And I wanted a freshness. And I kept thinking through that. And then I was reading and I kept seeing the word renew everywhere. And I was like, okay. So it was like very like in my world, right? Like it just kept coming back. And then the other day I read a specific verse and it was like, I got goosebumps all over. And that's like, for me, that's like the indicator. So I was like, okay, that's it. And,
that's awesome.
And then I was ready to get a tattoo because that's the activator, right? Like I was like all the way in,
It's so funny. So that's the thing of it. So like once you kind of like put into words what you want, okay, it's really important to get into a place of feeling. So there's the part of the brain that makes decisions doesn't understand human language. And I still can't process that.
That's so good.
Okay, and I could go read Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Don't just watch the TED Talk. You have to read the book to really understand this. But the truth is that, if I said like, well, why do you love your husband? Oh, because he makes me feel safe. And I said, well, don't firefighters and police chiefs or policemen and women and what I mean, safety people make you feel safe. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, that doesn't explain why you only love your husband that way, right? You can't put it into words. You ever notice that? Okay, that's my little experiment for you. But the point is, you can't put it into words. You have to put it into feelings. Again, we're going intrinsically. We're going deep in so that you are motivated from an internal fire and motivated that way versus a resolution. So once you kind of once you do know and have a picture of what you really do want, feel it. get yourself to a place of what would that feel like to have what you want to if you were to just put yourself in that space, what would it feel like? And just sit there for a minute, because the thing is if it doesn't feel right or you don't feel that internal fire, you might have to go back, right? And these steps can be a little bit of a dance, because sometimes those control freaks out there, sisters, are trying to force something that maybe doesn't exist. Okay, moving on. Then after that, you want to consider something, right? Like, let me put it this way. Step 3 is like this. So we know, let's imagine this is like a vacation. Okay, we went from a restaurant to a vacation. Okay, so we know that we want to go on vacation. And so we know where, you start with what you don't want. Like, if I were going on vacation, I do not want to go to Alaska. Why? Because I basically live in Alaska, in Michigan. It's like, I've been to Alaska. It's very similar. I don't want to go there. So I know all the places I don't want to go, but I got to get clear, like, on where I want to go, right? Okay. And this last step is consider your impact on your life step 3. Years from now, let's pretend maybe you're at the end of your life's journey. I don't want to get negative or sad, but just what are things you want people to say about you? Sort of like at the end of your journey, what do you want in your passport? Like, for some people, they don't ever want to leave the USA, so they don't even need your passport. But like, what do you want your passport to look like? And the thing is that your steps, your work this year should be in alignment. So let's say I did want to have a passport. One of the things at the end of my life, is a passport full of stamps of the world, right? And so my word this year might be a certain country that's not here, where I would have to have it in a passport stamp. Does that make sense? It needs to line up. And so if you're saying at the end of your life you never wanted to leave your home state, well, then obviously that is incongruent and you're going to be confused, and the confused mind does nothing. And so it's important that whether it's this year or next year, whatever, you want to make sure that each point, the long distance, Sean Kay was a VP with Mary Kay for a long time, and he said to me once, he said, Stephanie, I think God gave us two, we've all heard ears and one mouth, so we're listening more and shutting up more, less, or not talking as much. He said, I think God gave us 2 eyes. One eye that knows where we're going, and one eye that looks at what's next. And that is what you're doing, is in that last step, you're really looking at the 3 things that you really want to be known for, 3 impacts you want to leave behind. Most people, their biggest fear is just that, they didn't make a difference, or they don't want to be alone at the end. And so what kind of influence, what do you want things to be said about you? What kind of a journey do you want to have? And then from there, your words may emerge. And don't get me wrong, those words that come up for the end of time, the 3 things you want to be known for, those can evolve. But as of today, if it were there, if it were at the end, what would you want people to say? And this way you can kind of take the 3 themes and line them up. And so, I mean, Montana, it sounds like your word came to you like pretty, like it like literally came to you, like it walked to your house and knocked on the door. And so, but that's not always how it is to do it. But when you do this practice over and over again, you do become more aware of, the end of the year, or it's been 6 months since I've set a word. And you guys, here's the fun thing. When you figure out the word, okay, now we're going to go to the dressing room. I want you to pretend like you're sitting at the mall and you're trying on shoes, right? You're like Cinderella, and you put on one of the shoes and like just sit back and feel it. And if that shoe doesn't feel right, pick a different one. So before you like run out there and say, oh, this is my word, like really be intentional about taking, and this could be a 5-minute process as a whole. It doesn't have to take all day, but really, like, if it doesn't feel like, if you don't feel some sort of like warmth, movement,
energy
in your body, yes, energy, then don't wear that shoe out the store. Try on a different one. And so anyway, with that being said, Montana, your word this year is
renew. Yeah. And I want to say something about those 3 things really quickly, because I think for me, knowing that my word was renew, I guess I had already sort of picked out the 3 things that I really want to be known for when, at the end of time for me. the things that the legacy that I want to leave, the gifts that my unique irreplaceable greatness and how I feel like that is serving the world. Those things I had already decided. For me, where the word came from was I wanted to get back to that. And I knew that that's what I was that's what I know I was created for. And so I just had let it kind of get dull. And so I wanted that fresh fire because, it's kind of like being married. Okay. So we were created to be, whatever our purpose is in this world. Our husbands, we're committed to our husbands, right? Sometimes it gets a little stale, and you got to spice it up. One of our girlfriends says you have to act your way into a feeling. You know what I'm saying? You got to put it on and, So anyways, that's a little, extra. But the point is, I knew that it was acting my way into a feeling. And I'm not saying pretend. I'm saying it was more the decision and the practice of filtering things through this word. So, sometimes if you think about those three things, you might be thinking about those three things that you want to be known for. And then what you need right now is to focus on this word, because focusing on this word is going to help you become the person that can show up as those legacy things. So, I think that is really huge. So, again, this is just one way to get to Chicago. There's a million ways to get to Chicago, but we can
get Cliff Notes.
Yes. Yes, we have the Cliff Notes. Exactly. So, Steph, tell them what the key word is.
Yeah. So, first I'll share my word is reclaim. And kind of like Montana, I think a lot of people are in this, we're really, emerging out of this weird COVID place we've been, and some emerge sooner than others, just like puberty. Everybody hits it on different times. But in addition to that, our family's gone through some health stuff. Our house had some mold. We've had to and so it's affected our life. My life has been affected in a lot of different places, a lot of different ways. And I think when that happens, you can really lose yourself. And I'm somebody who usually is pretty, in my adult life, knows who I am. And I've just kind of gotten lost in being reactive to situation. And I think a lot of us have during COVID, we became very reactive because things change all the time. And so I chose reclaim because I would just feel like it is time for me to reclaim all the things that I want and stop claiming and stop having all these things I don't want and focusing on them. And so anyway, with that being said, we have a keyword for you. So this is the keyword you're going to text your consultant. So she knows you are on. And also remember, Montana is sending you those emails. She'll tell you about what's all going to be in there to look for in the end. But you're going to text your consultant the word becoming. That's all.
Yes.
What are you becoming? You don't have to pick. If you don't know it yet, it's okay. That's what you just want to pick something that was broad. Becoming.
Yeah. So you're going to get the email. And, it's going to come pretty soon. Promise. Check your email. Make sure that you, text your keyword to be the consultant, because that gets you entered into the giveaway. And we're going to give you those 3 questions that Stephanie shared with us, and you can kind of walk yourself through that. And the other thing is, we would love for you to share your word with us, because yes, of course, we want to be a community that has intention. And I personally love praying for the people that are in our community and just, putting all the good juju and vibes and everything out, because I think that is really one of the gifts that we have in the community that we're building. So share your word with us, please. We'd love to know. And then also make sure that you look in that email, because we do have that special invitation. Now, the special invitation also comes with some goodies to join us next Friday, the 13th. Friday the 13th. We love Friday the 13th in Mary Kay, because that is a special day for us, and we'll tell you about that next Friday. But
later, yeah.
But we want you to join us, and we are starting something super fun, our self-care 13th, and we're talking all about the new vibe skin cycling. So if you have not heard anything about it, just hold on to your hats and join us next Friday, and we're going to send you some goodies. Also, don't forget, if you did not take a screenshot yet, do that, and then tag us on Instagram and tag your beauty kitten consultant, because we want to get the good news out about the Girl Gay and all the fun things. And we'll see you
Get
next
extra
Friday.
entries to
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
giveaway. Yeah, don't just plan to tag us for your health. Tag
No.
us because we're bribing you to tag us.
Yeah, we're
Like,
bribing you.
extra entries, and of course, all your comments below, all the things. Yes,
Yeah.
that gets you extra entries as well, but you will get like extra credit, extra entries.
Extra. Yeah.
Extra,
So
extra.
funny thing about extra credit. So we have a family text thread, obviously, because most people do. But I texted Ethan, asked his sister to do something, and she was like, "Sure." So she's a teenager, and when you get "sure" from a teenager, you're like, "Ah!" Right? The heaven gates open,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Extra bonus points for Maggie." Well, then I got in the car this morning, and Ethan was like, "How come Maggie got bonus points yesterday?" And I was like, "Okay, well, there's not really like a prize or anything." Anyway, there is a prize for Liz. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for tagging. We want to know your word. We will see you guys next Friday. Check your email. All the good things.
It's gonna be fun. All right, guys. Bye.